It's 7 o'clock, so I'll call this meeting to order. Steve, you got the recording going?
I do.
So looked at the agenda, not much there. So I guess, Steve, you wanted this meeting, so I'll turn it over to you.
All right, I'm going to. Uh,
So now Steve, you're
yes,
now the host. I bet
and
you.
I made you the co-host, so
Oh, okay. Let's see if I can share a screen. No, it's still disabled.
it just came in. Try again.
All right, try it again. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
All right. Okay. You guys see that?
Mhm.
All right, Steve, the floor is yours.
All right, hold on. It's not all right, now I can see that. Okay, let me close this now. All right.
Is it big enough? Can you
It
see
is
the
now. It
numbers?
is. Yep, it's all good.
Oh, good.
So I thought it was important to kind of get together. As I've always said over the years, basically all we know going into budget season is what our previous tax year's levy was. And, we can get an idea about what next year's is if we go the full 2.5. New growth is a assumption. And local aid is an assumption, one that we are usually disappointed in. So where I got the numbers from, at least in the House One budget, um, I thought that maybe we could have a little discussion about this as we go forward, especially with some of the bigger budgets coming down the pike. I mean, the little ones are easy, or easier. And so I think that have you all seen the state cherry sheet, House One cherry sheet? I think that I think I sent it around to a few of you when I got it. I don't know if you others came in and got it. Dan, you got it, right?
Yeah, I got it. I didn't like it, so I threw it away.
Okay. That was how people felt at the MMA meeting.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll take it that if you want to scroll down, maybe Dan, to
Yeah, to the income state
Yeah,
receipts.
yeah, state receipts.
So this is just a plug number from last year.
Okay.
So what do you think?
Hey, you were pretty good. I think on the plus side, we had 14,120 on state receipts. That's what the House One budget is. We're fiscal year 26. So, pretty close, 20 grand off. You get a gold star.
That was just a miracle then.
I
So
know.
it's 14,121.
120.
14,121.
14,121, rounding up.
All right. Wow, that's encouraging. I'm trying to remember what I had for a multiplier. What I assumed.
Well, for us, it was a net of 1.6%.
I have a total of 2%.
Yeah,
That's right. I changed that. That's right. I had 4%. I changed it when I got the House One numbers. I changed it to 2. That's why I was so close.
And on the estimates, it's if you want to go up there, it's 2,640.
Up to where? Up to where?
The assessments.
Cherry sheet?
Cherry sheet. Yep, 26.
Well, wait a minute. I got article let's see, wait a minute. Say it is 2335 is what I have.
It's
for state and county.
State and county, it's 2,640.
2641.
40, rounding down, rounding up, 2,640, rounding to the nearest.
All right. Oh, that doesn't help.
Oh, that doesn't help.
Cherry sheet offsets. Any idea what that number looks like?
Yes. Cherry sheet offsets was 79.
That doesn't help.
Yes, Mr. Sullivan.
Oh, hi, Liz.
Go onto the town website and go
Hey,
on to
all.
the tonight, and all right on the agenda you can link in. No problem. Okay. All right. Thank you. Sully's coming on.
Yeah, I picked that up. So, so what other cheery news can I put in here?
Let's see. What did you put in for the health budget, insurance budget, health insurance?
Health insurance? Um, okay, I have 285 for personal services, 15,228, and then $1 million in OPEB.
All right.
So the total is 16,514. That must be Jim.
That's Jim. But that includes, that 16 includes the light department, correct?
Yes.
And any other enterprise.
Right. So let me blow this up. So I have at a different spot, I have the health insurance and the offset here for light, water, and sewer. I've
Okay.
got 2,560,000. So that's in a different spot.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Right.
So in terms of total, is 16,514 close?
And minus 2, would you say 2.4 on the others?
Oh, on the other on the transfers,
Yeah, that is close.
2560
2560. Okay.
is the transfers.
All right. So what I was playing with, I'll tell you the things. Well, I think you got everything. We have kind of a base now, and I would agree with your assumption on the health insurance because you already moved that up.
I did.
Yeah. Okay. So I was playing around with a few things. And Kevin, don't have a heart attack over there, okay? Because right now I think we're running a deficit of what, 1.5 or so?
1.523.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty good. What if we were to say to ourselves, hey, we and maybe Ed Bean and Dan, Ed doesn't know this, but I've been a big proponent of OPEB over the years, Ed. So don't yell at me.
No, Wakefield's in a good position on OPEB. I got my actuary, always on my back here,
We're in a good position. Let's not mess with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. If we were to, in our minds, okay, say that we were not going to fund OPEB until November, and we have $1 million going into that, and funding it because we're not going to know what new growth is, and aid may go up. That is one thing I think we have to keep in the back of our minds as we look at this going forward. Now, I know that Kevin and I talk about what effect would that have with the bond surveillance call. We've got one more big one to go between now and the last borrowing for the high school. So we have to keep that in the back of our minds.
Steve, I just had a call last week with Standard & Poor's.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're aware of this, but they have changed their methodology over the last couple of months. They're being criticized because you got 77 communities in Massachusetts with AAA with Standard & Poor's, and you get like 19 with Moody's.
Yeah.
So they are weighting more heavily the liabilities, i.e. pension, debt, and OPEB. they're raising up their weight on the liabilities. So it's a little bit of a concern. So, but I do think Wakefield's in a good position, generally, but I just want to raise that point with you because they gave us a warning in the call. It says, we want you to know, we're changing the way we look at things.
I think we felt that last year. There was a real change where we thought having 10% reserves was, geez, wonderful. Funding OPEB to the extent that we were and are was really wonderful. And when they said, well, we kind of really would like you to be at 15% reserves. And I'm thinking, how long did it take us to get to 10? I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, we're at 13. So, and it took us a while to even get to that point.
So Kevin, what's our current funded status at OPEB? It's like 30 something?
Yeah, I think it was high 30s.
High
Yeah,
30s,
and
yeah.
Somerville has 29 mil in OPEB, and Wakefield has high 30s. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's an issue. I also thought about, we've been really good about capital. And my marching orders to the capital subcommittee, capital planning committee was to go forward with the assumption that we will get increased capital by 3% to like 2.1. Do you have that in there, Dan, for fiscal year 26 capital spending?
Capital is 2.113.
I have 2.154 in my mind. That's pretty good. Coming back a long way where we were in like 230,000 years ago. That may be something we might want to look at and bifurcate. I know we like to play with the numbers here.
I'd say the stabilization, we have 200,000 going in, but that doesn't sound like something that Standard & Poor's would like.
I don't think you should touch that at all.
Yeah. But what about local receipts? Kevin, how are we tracking for 25? I've only got 10.5 here for 25 because we thought it would be going down from 24. Do you still think it's going to be lower than 24?
Yeah, I do, because in 24, we got that big building permit for the head of the lake. Building permits will still be good, probably over $1 million, but in fiscal 24, it was 2 million. So I don't see us hitting that number again this year.
All right.
Well, the governor's response to the local aid package, he's refiled the Municipal Empowerment Act, you know? So folks, you can raise if it passes, you can raise your meals tax and your hotel motel taxes. There's more revenue, but
Always
go
there with
anywhere
the
political.
solution. Always there with the solution.
yeah.
Well, the way this thing is set up now, yeah, the deficit's 1.6, but then it just keeps growing. And our free cash goes down, hits 0 in 32.
What do you have for potential cash return at end of year?
Oh, right here. I have a half a million. We got back 3.4 this year, but I only got a half a million. It may be better than that, half a million, but
Right.
we don't know. That's the number that Kevin gave me.
Yeah.
So blame him.
That Kevin, he's so conservative.
A big piece of that was the health insurance, correct?
Yeah.
He has gone back, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Right, but it wasn't 3.4.
There's a big piece of that.
About $1 million was health.
Yeah, it was a little
Yeah.
over $1 million, I think, from
Right.
healthcare.
Yeah.
So that still leaves 2.5, but yep.
We've really, so I got what do you have the schools coming in at? For a increase?
Oh, for an increase?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. It's a pretty good size increase, V12. I got them at 5%.
All right, I'm carrying them on my sheet because I do it a little differently. We match up. I've got them coming in at 6.
Oh, shit.
I mean, that's just what I'm hearing. That's the tea leaves I'm hearing. That's not my number. That's just what I'm carrying it on.
I mean, every time we tell them 4, they said, okay, we're going to increase 0.5%. So now they went from 5.5 to 25, and now we're going to 6.
That's the numbers that I'm hearing. I don't go to the meetings. I don't know if the subcommittee has met on that, but that's kind of where I'm.
We just lost a year. Oh yeah, so now we're 2.1 million in the hole. And it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And actually, I need to bring this figure for 25 to here. And make it a positive. Now that's 0. Yeah, we're still going the hole in 31.
Yeah.
I mean, is it reasonable to think we're gonna get more back than 500,000?
Kevin?
Well, it depends, you know, if it doesn't snow out and we turn a big chunk from snow and ice. Depends on what we do with the reserve fund. I will say a concern that there is that we have is fire overtime. It's going to be too much to take out of the reserve fund, so we're probably going to have to do a supplemental article at the May town meeting.
Dan, what's the 5-year average of that return? Can you back up a little bit?
Of which return?
The cash return back to the town?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You were on that cell.
Yeah, so those 4 years is an average of 2.7.
And if you took 75% of that,
You're about 2 million.
The one thing I want to caution there is when we did the health insurance budget, group insurance budget this fiscal year, there was a 10% increase in the rates, and we were able to offset with the surplus that was in that account. So we only went up on that budget like 1 or 2%. So that return will not be forthcoming this at the end of this fiscal year. So
yeah,
we're hoping that there will be some surplus there, maybe a couple 100,000, but not to the extent that it has been in the past.
right. I was just assuming like a 1.2 in that in that for the next 2 years, you know, this current and the next, but that's just my opinion based on departments, you know, thinking to the departments, even put the health to the side for a minute. It just seems like the departments do well. There's close to 1 million coming back, but I mean, it's not gonna change the number. It's not gonna flip it upside down, but
Well, it's gonna move it out. If it's 1 million the next 2 years, it moves it out another
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
I don't know what others think, but yeah.
if I just run it out,
Yeah.
the free cash, yeah, we managed to get out to 33.
So if you run if you run, you're on 1.2 million, you get up to 34. Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
So Steve, wasn't there supposed to be a big lump sum from the power lines at one point?
That's already been baked into new growth. It was a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, so yeah, if I go up to new growth,
Yeah, is the assessor holding with that number right now?
right here, like 24 is 2.5 million. A lot of that was from the
Power line. Yeah.
power line.
So
This
it's 1,444,426.
Yeah.
Is that an up-to-date number, or is he?
I think that that's,
No.
it's not, but Victor did run a 3-year average, 3-year look ahead for Kevin and and I think from the larger projects, he felt comfortable with $1.4 million. There may
Yeah.
be some others added to it, so I think that's maybe a slightly low end, because you don't know, but seems like everything gets delayed now anyway, so.
Yeah, that's what's going on now. It's not moving at the same pace.
Yeah, I noticed I added 300,000 at some point in the last few months based on maybe some Victor information or something. So I did give it a bump because we thought we are going to get a bump in 26.
Yeah, but I think that new growth number is gonna go up and down as the bigger developments come on.
Yeah.
Because I see how you're carrying that number out into the out years.
Yeah, it's just an inflation number on it.
Right.
Right.
But it just doesn't run like that, Kev, is what you're saying.
Well,
Right.
well,
It's more
You know-
volatile.
It's
Yeah.
volatile.
Yeah.
It's variable.
you never know. It's what type of developments you're gonna have coming in and being considered new construction.
And assuming you spoke of, Steve, at some point, maybe going back to town meeting with increases in certain fees and permits, but that's not gonna affect next year's budget, right? You'd have to,
Well, I mean, and I wouldn't mind doing an article in, and what a great segue, Ed, thank you, and we did not talk ahead of a time, people, so. I think the fees on like building and some of that other stuff is not, it's gonna add a little bit, but it's not gonna move the needle.
right. Right.
Fees and licenses, but I think that's something that we haven't discussed for years. I remember discussing this about 20 years ago, and it still hurts on my back when it rains over what happened, but I think we have to think about a trash removal fee.
Mm-hmm.
And that would add, if you covered the cost of trash removal, which is a little
Yeah.
over $2 million a year, that creates, taking that out of the tax levy does create a big, does solve a
Yeah.
lot of problems, and it is about, it's about $250 per, household per year.
Yeah. Won't be popular, but
It won't be popular, no.
Yeah,
Might be necessary.
2.6 million bucks for 26 for trash.
Yeah.
It's a big chunk.
Did you guys adjust state aid, or what are you using for state aid? I got on a few minutes late.
We did adjust it for what the cherry sheet
Yeah.
is as of now.
Yeah, that's just, 14,121, Jim.
And then you expect it, well, you don't know, but you expect it a little higher or a little lower, I guess, right?
Well, I mean,
I mean, it's not gonna go up 15%.
no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we got the minimum of $75 a child on the governor's budget. Last year, what was it last year?
110.
110 or something. So could that go up a little bit? But I just think the feeling I get, and Ed, you were there.
Yeah.
At the MMA, the feeling I got was that this unrestricted local aid or Chapter 70 is not a real priority of this administration.
Yep.
Their priority is to create grants that you can go for, but that doesn't help me resolve my budget.
Yep.
So that's kind of the feeling I got from them.
I agree.
And they're coming in, the reps are coming into the state reps are coming into the town council meeting Monday night. Monday, the 10th.
Oh, that 10th, that library's on the 10th.
Library's on the 10th as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be there. I'll be calling in from Texas.
So what was interesting to me was when I looked at, I used to look at this all the time religiously, and I stopped for a couple of years because it made me mad, and then Kevin looked at it and made Kevin even angrier than I was. So he comes in screaming at me about it, and then I had to look at it again. If Wakefield were to get the same per pupil aid as Melrose does, we would get an extra 1.5 million in chapter 70.
Wow.
Same as
Wow.
Reading, we'd get 1.6 million more. Same as Stoneham again, 1.5. You know, Reading gets 32.50 per student, Melrose 31.96, Stoneham 31.94, Wakefield gets 27.57. That to me is a little bit of a you know, a difference that I would really like to talk about. Our delegation who'll tell me it's the formula and just wait, we're studying it, but I'm tired of, I'm too old to hear that. This is my last budget. That answer doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Steve, how does Melrose do that and still have a per pupil expenditure significantly lower than us?
I have no idea. I'd like to know that. If I wish I knew that secret.
So another thing that I've been a little concerned about is in our budget, our expenses for tax levy have been going up an average of 4.9% for the last 5 years, well, the projection of 26.
Yeah.
And our income has been going at 4% over the last 5 years. I mean, that's a recipe for a disaster.
Right.
And that's why I keep telling the schools, you got to limit the 4% because that's what our income is. And you know what happens with my statements.
Yes.
They get ignored.
Well, you have a good sense of humor. You called yourself the Grinch the last time. That was good, Dan.
Yeah, well, it fits.
But Saugus, let me tell you, Saugus gets $5,713 per student on chapter 70, which if you which I know are not the same, but that would be $9.8 million more in Wakefield in chapter. So I just did that for fun.
I just upset yourself.
I did.
Kevin and I looked at that last week too, so it's quite shocking.
So Dan, the per pupil expenditure in Melrose is less than Wakefield from the tax levy, you're saying?
I don't know.
Dawn, I'm sorry, Dawn.
Yes, I have no idea.
So, I mean, I just remember last year I was looking at per pupil costs, particularly when they were going through their strike in Melrose, and they seem to be spending a lot less per pupil than we were in Wakefield. So.
I wonder if part of it is trying to get apples to apples, because there are certain things, for example, that we may be putting on the schools that Melrose is not and has somewhere else in a line item. I don't know what it might be, but there's a possibility that there's some money that's being spent on the schools in Melrose that we just don't see in their budget.
Melrose also loses, and you look at the per pupil cost, also loses a huge number of kids to the charter school. So, you know, it still costs the same to heat that school and run that school. It's still, you're spreading a lot of those costs over less pupils. So I wonder if that's part of that equation.
Yeah, like you said, Dan, on the per pupil spend, it's hard because it's just likely not apples to apples, right?
Yeah.
But the money that the state provides per pupil is crystal clear, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this started a long time ago when Dan was a young boy. The foundation was really good in Wakefield, which resulted in the equation penalizing us ever since.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I've been to a lot of
Yeah.
as I can't figure
When-
it out.
I do recall when I first got on the finance committee, which is now a long time ago, that I spent I bet I spent 6 hours studying the formula to understand it. And I finally did. I finally understood it. And it's like, this really is terrible.
Yeah.
It had to do with the per capita income of the community
Yeah.
and the property values of the
And
community.
evaluation. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those as a two-parter.
Yep.
They created like how wealthy is your community? And I never understood.
Exactly.
Right. 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 Yeah.
Okay, so we got some work to do, gentlemen and Liz.
So Ed, to go back to OPEB, because I'm looking for not that it's low hanging fruit, but it's something that we could consider. What do you think in your experience with? I thought that S&P, when I met with them, they liked OPEB, but they would be more impressed if I had 25 million, or if I had 35 million in OPEB and an extra 3 or 4 million in free cash. I think they would have liked it better.
No, I think you're okay on the OPEB. I think you could play with that, as you don't want to play with your free cash or your stabilization. I think that's going to be much more impactful in their mind.
Right. Well, and
They're
there's
looking
also,
at they're going to look at, they're going to take your financial statements and calculate the percentages of reserves based off your general fund revenue as a percentage of your core stabilization. So you got the core stabilization fund, I think your special ed stabilization, they'll add those up plus the free cash at 630, and that will be their reserves. So I wouldn't touch those, and the OPEB, I think you're in a very good position. When are you fully funding the pension, Dan? When's it fully
36.
okay.
But I'm going to push back a little bit on the OPEB. And one aspect is that we can't go to zero, because under the GASB rules, then you could run into a situation where you have to lower your discount rate and go to a blended rate because you're not funding it sufficiently, and you end up coming up with instead of 7.5% or 7% discount rate, you have to go to, say, 6, just picking a number. And then that raises your liability and just makes your books look worse.
Yeah, the long-term liability. Yeah,
exactly. So you don't dare go to zero, because then they'll push back on your discount rate. So you need to have something going in there that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think you do have to put something in. This may not have to be as much as you'd want to, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So you might put 500,000 in and then put 500,000 in November.
Yeah, I mean, you could do something like that. Yeah.
And what's the function of that, Steve? The wait and see look, or what?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, part of it is that, and you'll know the new growth.
Yeah.
We'll know state aid, because we're not going to know state aid on May 5th. I just don't think we'll know definitively.
We'll know a little bit more about local receipts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll know a little bit more on what turnback's going to be. The winter.
Yeah,
review.
exactly. If you can calculate what your projected turnback's going to be when you go out in June, they ask us for that all the time, you know. So we're coming up with estimates of that, and that's going to help.
Why wouldn't we just increase the return by 500,000 and leave OPEB alone for now?
Or you could leave OPEB alone and see what happens at the end of the fiscal year, and you budget the full, say, $1 million. And then if you do need to cut, you can always reduce that line item at town meeting.
Right, because it's not going to affect your free cash anyway. For the borrowing at that point.
Steve, what about overlay surplus? Do you think the assessor can cough up some money?
I think we're going to cough up a little money there.
Yes.
Yes. Not as good as you got, Ed, a few years ago, but we'll do okay.
Yeah, I got 4 million that I had to use for this liability on 90 Washington Street in Somerville.
So Steve, I just looked at the numbers. So it's, we spent $4,300 more per pupil than Melrose. So
4,300 more per pupil.
So they have 4,200 students and they're at 16,293. This is 2023 numbers on the DESI site.
Okay.
And we're at 20,657 for 3,400 students. So I guess, just looking at it that way, you could say, maybe we have too many smaller facilities that are driving up our per pupil cost, but.
But then why are they getting more in state aid?
Yes. Mm.
I don't want to take it away from them. I'd like to get the same thing. Hmm.
But I thought when I looked at it the last time, that number really stuck out at me, and that's 25%, right?
Yeah, it's huge, huge. Kevin, where are we on circuit breaker account balances over the last few years?
Right now, I can tell you through half the fiscal year. Bear with me and I will. Yeah, I'm checking right now, Steve. It'll be a minute for me to
So
pull it up.
the overlay, Ed, that you spoke about, so this is it here, 600 typically, Dan, is that what you're saying?
I think what Ed was talking about, Jim, was that we normally, account the 600,000 in overlay because you're never gonna collect all the taxes every year and
Right.
going to be abatements, but we've been doing that every year consistently for a while. So there is some buildup in that account
Yeah.
because
We don't spend it.
we don't spend it. So I do think that at the end of this fiscal year, we'll probably the Board of Assessors will probably return back 500,000 plus into free cash, which is a nice.
Didn't we do
Cool.
that last year too, then? Is that what we were referring to?
I don't think we got anything last year from them.
No,
The year
it was a
before.
few years ago.
Yeah, it was a little while ago.
So I don't know if there's any appellate tax board cases or whatnot with some of these big
Yeah.
developments.
I don't think there are any right now. So I think we're
Nothing big, no.
So again, though, then you go back to the return, the cash return, I still think it should be $1 million instead of a half, if you think you're gonna return a half from the overlay. Is that the same thing we're referring to?
No. No,
That line item won't go there. Go ahead.
it would go somewhere. I think it would go somewhere else.
But it would still help free cash. Your
Yes.
free cash effect would be still.
Yeah, I don't know if, again, I'm not forcing it. I'm just asking if, does it make sense? That's all. We are very fortunate that we always seem to come in a little higher than we expect on the return. And every year we worry about that. I get it.
So
But if-
circuit breaker, we have. About 800,000.
800K where? What is that from?
That's what the balance in circuit breaker is currently,
Of this fiscal year.
this fiscal year through half the fiscal year.
Okay.
And usually that money comes in quarterly, so there's gonna be probably another quarterly distribution that's not in that number.
Anything from previous fiscal years, or have those been?
That's all rolled into one.
It's all rolled into one. Okay.
Yeah.
The governor did talk about, with no specifics, unless Ed got something that I didn't when he was there, about some additional funding in circuit breaker, but I don't think we heard any specifics about it.
I couldn't find specifics on that at all,
Right.
Seems like the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan, the debt services, Dan, that's accurate right there. It happens to be in the middle of the screen.
The debt service account. W-94. That is the debt service at end of 24, 959,307.
Yeah, that's gonna go down before it goes up. What do you have for the payment?
Oh, I just take that from Kevin's spreadsheet.
Yeah, all right. So that
Oh,
would be,
one more thing on the returns at the end of the fiscal year. I think the number that's in there right now, that 500,000, that's with the anticipation of the school returning zero. And, you know, I know the question has come up at the end of the fiscal year. The school has had some excess funds that they've used to prepay sped tuitions, which is legally they can do.
No.
So, you know, to the tune of about $500,000.
yeah. I think the other thing we have to make, while we're talking about the schools, and both Kevin and I have impressed this upon the hierarchy over there, is that for their revolving accounts, particularly the cafeteria account, that really there's got to be the full chargebacks have to come in on workers' comp, retirement, health insurance.
Yeah.
That has got to be full. That's really going to make some differences here, in my opinion. So that's something, I don't know when the subcommittee is meeting with them, but that's something that I would appreciate if was impressed upon them, that, you know, that is something that needs to happen.
Yes.
That requires some work on their part, though. I don't know if they're gonna sit down and work with us to analyze all that.
But it's health, retirement, and what else, Steve?
Workers' comp.
Yeah.
And we have calculated those figures and we have given them to the schools.
Good.
So it's
All right, so
it's
they
one of
can't
those
ignore
that
it.
we just need them to say, yes, okay, we'll take care of it.
And that's school lunches in particular, Steve, right? Would you say?
And I think in particular, yeah.
I think we're meeting Friday. I can't meet with them, but I'll talk to Brian.
Yeah, I can't go to that meeting either, Jim.
But I'll talk to Brian. I'll pass this on, Steve.
And I kind of don't think it's so much the administration that is giving us the that is not as receptive as maybe somebody else is over there, or other people are.
Hmm.
And the school lunch still being subsidized by the state?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think we get $4.50 a lunch.
Oh, right, that's right. Yeah.
I think you guys get the same, Ed? Is that a statewide thing, or?
I think it's a little bit higher. I don't think it's I think we're like 525 or something like
You
that.
guys get everything in Somerville. What can I tell you?
Well,
Gee.
we get higher. You would be surprised at how many low income kids we have in the Somerville school system. It's
I
the
get it.
DESE DESE statistic is 51%.
Yeah.
Which
I'm sure, but the lunch still costs the same.
yeah.
The grilled cheese is still the same grilled cheese, isn't it?
If there's more kids, there's an element.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
I mean, if it was Cambridge, I could see it. They don't eat grilled cheese, but it's Somerville.
So it's just a different type of cheese.
well,
You wouldn't want to eat the lunch they serve.
yeah.
Wait, is somebody from Cambridge on this call?
No.
Well, believe me, I have my problems with the Somerville school system.
Yeah.
Hey,
Those same problems exist everywhere, you know?
All right,
Dan,
So-
what do you have for the Voc going forward?
What's that?
The vocational school, Dan,
Voc.
what do you have for that? Okay,
Almost.
good.
how's that look?
Let's see. So that increase is mainly for the, yeah, that might actually be, because I just got the numbers from them today. I'll send them over to you. That might be a shallow bright spot, but not much.
Right.
But good, but I'm good. I'm glad you didn't, it wasn't lowballed, would be my fear.
Yeah, I put in 15% a few months ago.
Does that include the new building?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, I think we can wrap this up now.
Sure.
So, everybody in this call, would you like a copy of this spreadsheet, or I'll just keep pushing it along and, because we got a bunch more budgets I have to put in.
I'd
But-
love a copy of it, Dan, personally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would as well.
If you're sending it out, Dan, I'll take one.
Well, now I might as well get everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, thanks.
Well, thank you for coming to the meeting. I'm glad I brightened your evening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I think I got, yeah, I think I got everybody. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn at 7:46?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Second.
All right, thank you all. Have a good evening.
Have a
What's
great
Thank
left of
evening.
it?
you.
Thank you, everyone.